"20 large wildfires are burning across Oregon right now, more than any other state in the country. And today, Saturday, July 25th, is being called the driest and windiest day of this entire stretch by the National Weather Service. Relative humidity in some fire zones could drop as low as 8% this afternoon. 8%. That is the threshold at which fire behavior becomes essentially unpredictable. Any spark, any wind shift, any ember carried ahead of the main fire front can start a new run in seconds." The National Multi-Agency Coordinating Group raised wildland fire preparedness to Level 5 on July 18th. That is the highest level that exists. It means firefighting resources nationwide are heavily committed, and Oregon has already requested additional out-of-state support. Every available resource in the country is being pulled toward this situation. Level 5 is not declared often. In a typical fire season, the country operates at Level 3 or 4 for most of the summer, with brief spikes to Level 5 during the most extreme conditions. When Level 5 is sustained over multiple days, as it has been since July 18th, it means that fire managers across the country are making difficult choices about which fires get resources and which fires have to wait. There are not enough crews, not enough helicopters, not enough air tankers to fully staff every active fire at the same time. Prioritization decisions are being made daily about where the biggest threats are and where the available resources can do the most good. Oregon has 20 large fires and the nation's highest priority fire in the Akawa Butte. It is getting significant resource allocation. But even with 4 out-of-state structural task forces arriving Friday, even with Air Force Reserve C-130s staged and ready, the scale of what is burning across the state exceeds what any single mobilization can fully cover. That is the reality of a Level 5 fire season. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now, because this situation can change dramatically before the end of today, and you need to be ahead of it. Let us go fire by fire, starting with the biggest. The Rowe Creek Complex in Wheeler County is currently Oregon's largest active fire. As of Friday evening, it had burned 192,681 acres and stood at 27% containment, up from 21% earlier in the week. That progress matters, but active fire behavior continues on the southern edge along Highway 26, where crews are focused on reinforcing control lines. The former Box Springs fire has now merged with the Crosswhite fire, with the combined area split into east and west sections. 2 small outbuildings have been lost. Friday's report assigned 31 crews, 14 dozers, 63 engines, and more than 900 personnel to this fire alone. The Hay Creek Complex in Gilliam County is a collection of separate fires being tracked together. The largest piece is the Porcupine Ridge Fire at 79,740 acres and only 13% contained. Within the same complex, a newer fire called the Cottonwood Fire grew past 10,000 acres within hours after winds gusted to 35 miles per hour. That is how fast things move here. One wind event, one new fire, 10,000 acres in hours. Combined, the fires making up the Hay Creek Complex had burned roughly 155,000 acres as of Friday. The Akawa Butte Fire, burning near Sisters across Deschutes and Jefferson counties, is the one that has the entire country's attention. As of Friday afternoon, it had grown to more than 27,000 acres at 5% containment. State fire officials have designated this the nation's highest priority wildfire for resource allocation. At least one home has been confirmed destroyed, with damage assessments still ongoing. Governor Tina Kotek visited the fire area on Friday and urged residents to follow evacuation orders without exception. Sisters High School is serving as an evacuation shelter for displaced residents. Structure protection teams are maintaining a 100 to 150-foot perimeter around threatened homes. 4 additional out-of-state structural task forces arrived Friday to help protect homes in the area. 5% containment on the nation's highest priority fire. That is where things stand this morning. The Brewer Fire east of Madras in Crook and Jefferson counties is at approximately 32,700 acres and also 5% containment. Extreme fire behavior, wind-driven runs, group torching, spotting, numerous structures and energy infrastructure threatened, evacuations in effect. Near the Idaho border in Baker County, multiple fires including the Salmon, Olive Butte, and Anthony fires have prompted evacuation orders in recent days. Containment figures for those fires are changing quickly enough that the Baker County Sheriff's Office is the most reliable source for current numbers. The Coyote Fire in Crook County stands at 17,460 acres with 47% containment. The nearby Henry Fire, at approximately 20,151 acres, is at 18% containment, with crews focused on keeping the fire from advancing into the South Fork Wilderness Study Area, northeast of Madras. Large air tankers have been dropping retardant on the Coyote Fire's southern end within the 2020 Frog Fire burn scar. The 10-mile fire is estimated at approximately 4,700 acres after overnight mapping showed it had not grown significantly overnight. Now let us talk about the weather, because the weather is running this situation, and today is the most dangerous day of the week. A red flag warning remains in effect across much of central and southeastern Oregon. The National Weather Service office in Boise issued a red flag warning for southeastern Oregon that runs through 9 p.m. tonight, covering the Burns, Steens Mountain, and Baker Valley fire weather zones. The warning for the Rowe Creek Complex area runs through 10 p.m. tonight. West and northwest winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour, with gusts to 35. Relative humidity dropping to 8% in some locations. Temperatures near 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the hottest areas. Today is the day fire managers have been preparing for all week. Low humidity, strong wind, maximum heat, all three at the same time. When humidity drops below 10% and winds are gusting to 35 miles per hour, a fire that has been manageable for days can produce extreme runs in a matter of hours. Embers can travel a mile or more ahead of the main fire front and start spot fires in unburned fuel that crews have no time to respond to. This is how fires go from 20,000 acres to 50,000 acres in a single afternoon. And it is the exact scenario fire managers are watching for today across every one of these active fires. Here is what that looks like in practice for the crews on the ground. A containment line is not a wall. It is a cleared strip of ground, sometimes scraped by dozer, sometimes cut by hand, where firefighters have removed vegetation so the fire cannot cross. Building that line takes hours of hard physical work in extreme heat. Holding that line depends on the fire behaving predictably enough that the crews can stay ahead of it. When wind gusts to 35 miles per hour, the fire does not behave predictably. It throws embers. Those embers land in unburned fuel on the other side of the containment line. Spot fires ignite. Suddenly, the line that crews spent 12 hours building is behind the fire instead of in front of it, and the fire is growing in a direction nobody anticipated. That is not a hypothetical. That is what happened to the Cottonwood Fire within the Hay Creek Complex earlier this week. Winds gusted to 35 miles per hour. A fire that was being tracked individually grew past 10,000 acres within hours. 10,000 acres. In hours, because of wind. Today, the National Weather Service is forecasting those exact same conditions across multiple fire zones simultaneously. That is why today is the day that fire managers have spent all week preparing for. And that is why, if you are in or near any evacuation zone, today is not the day to wait and see. The red flag warning for the Akawa Butte area runs through Saturday evening with west winds of 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting to 30, and relative humidity potentially dropping to 8%. That fire is already the nation's top priority. Today's conditions will test every containment line that crews have spent the past week building. Smoke from these fires has affected air quality well beyond Oregon's borders. Reduced air quality has been reported in the Boise, Idaho area this week. The Oregon DEQ and AirNow both recommend checking real-time local air quality readings before spending extended time outdoors this weekend. Several major road closures are in effect and changing frequently. A portion of Highway 218 between Clarno and Fossil remains closed near the Rowe Creek Complex. Highway 26 has single-lane pilot car traffic between mile markers 53 and 63. The National Park Service has closed the Clarno and Painted Hills units of John Day Fossil Beds National Monument due to nearby fire activity. The Bureau of Land Management has closed public land along both banks of the John Day River from Service Creek to the Columbia River. The Malheur, Umatilla, and Wallowa-Whitman National Forests all have temporary area closures in place. Before any travel through the fire areas, check tripcheck.com. Start with a full tank. know your alternative routes. For context on the scale of what Oregon is experiencing right now, the state's entire 2021 wildfire season burned approximately 827,000 acres. As of Wednesday, July 22nd, the most recent confirmed statewide count, Oregon had already recorded 76 active fires and roughly 674,000 acres burned. Given the growth in individual fires since that count, the actual statewide total today is very likely significantly higher. Oregon's fire seasons are not getting shorter, they are not getting less intense. The combination of drought, heat, and lightning that fuels these events is producing more ignitions, more extreme fire behavior, and longer active burn periods than the historical record shows for this region. The infrastructure that exists to respond to wildfire was built and funded based on historical fire seasons that no longer represent what Oregon faces today. Fire crews are using aerial reconnaissance and heat detection flights to identify holdover lightning fires that have not yet produced visible smoke. That detail deserves more attention than it usually gets. A holdover fire is a fire that was ignited by lightning but did not immediately produce visible flame or smoke. Instead, it smolders underground, in root systems, in deep duff layers, sometimes for days or even weeks before conditions allow it to surface and grow. Central Oregon received more than 2,000 lightning strikes over a recent 72-hour period. Not all of those strikes started fires that crews have already found. Some of them are sitting in the ground right now, waiting for today's wind and low humidity to bring them to the surface. That is why fire managers do not declare victory when active fire behavior decreases overnight. The morning cool down and humidity recovery that allows crews to make progress is temporary. Every afternoon, when temperatures climb back toward 100 degrees and humidity crashes back to single digits, those holdover fires get another opportunity to emerge. And on a day like today, when winds are forecast to gust to 35 miles per hour, a holdover fire that surfaces in the wrong location can become a major incident before any crew can respond. If you are near any of these fires, your county sheriff's office is the official source for your specific evacuation zone status. Oregon's evacuation levels are Level 1 get ready, Level 2 get set, and Level 3 go now. If you are in a Level 3 zone, leave immediately. Do not wait to see the fire. Do not go back for belongings. Go. Have a go bag ready. Keep your phone charged. No more than one route out of your neighborhood. Know your evacuation zone number before you need it. No meaningful rainfall is in the extended forecast for Oregon's fire zones. Temperatures will ease slightly early next week before warming again by midweek. The drought conditions across central Oregon are expected to persist. The pattern driving this entire situation, a persistent high-pressure ridge suppressing rainfall and building heat, has to break before Oregon gets real relief. That is not happening this weekend. 20 large fires. Level 5 national preparedness. The driest and windiest day of the week starting right now. The communities of Sisters, Madras, Fossil, Mitchell, Prineville, Jordan Valley, and dozens of rural communities across eastern Oregon are living through this. Their homes, their ranches, their land. For ranching families, fire season means watching pasture land that feeds their livestock burn away in hours. Fences that took years to build, gone. Water infrastructure, irrigation systems, wells, all of it vulnerable. Some of the communities currently under threat in eastern Oregon have been in the same families for 4 or 5 generations. The land is not just property, it is identity. And when evacuation orders come, leaving it behind is one of the hardest things a family can be asked to do. And then there is the air. Living under heavy wildfire smoke for weeks is not just uncomfortable. It is a genuine public health crisis for the most vulnerable residents, children whose lungs are still developing, elderly residents with pre-existing heart and lung conditions, farm workers who cannot simply stay indoors when animals need to be fed and crops need attention. These are the people who bear the heaviest long-term health burden of a fire season like this one. Subscribe and hit the bell. Containment updates, evacuation changes, weather shifts. This situation can move faster than any single news cycle can track. You want to be ahead of it.